enterprise funds to contribute to the project. So it leaves us with a total of $2.1 million for Fund 302. We have moved to 304. This is the Street Capital Construction Fund. We have a total almost $12 million here, so I'm just going to walk through these. And from my perspective, it's always helpful to identify the project by its plan number. So I have the TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan number in the front end of this description. So if you ever want to refer to what project it is, you can go to the comp plan and identify it that way. So TIP 1.1 is the Bay Street Pathway right-of-way completion. Again, we're hoping to complete acquisition of all the right-of-way for the Bay Street Pathway. And that's estimated at roughly $1.4 million, $1.5 million.
That takes us to the terminus. All of it.
Gets all the, that hopefully gets us to all of our right of way.
Okay.
So then the next tip is similar with the pathway, design and construction, again, completion. And hopefully by the end of the biennium, we'll have completed that full construction project and spent the $5 million. Again, we have federal dollars there, along with REIT revenue contributing to that project. Tip 1.3, Bay Street situational study. I believe they've awarded the contract for that work, but
We've selected, I don't think we've awarded.
Yeah.
I think we're negotiating.
okay, thank you.
And that is the concepts for the pathway heading west from the ferry terminal along the waterfront and heading up the boulevard to tie into Tremont, potentially putting the boulevard on a road diet so we get pathway and bike lane.
That would be nice.
So I'm budgeting the full estimated project cost for next biennium at $567.
And that's a grant funded.
It's grant funded with I think 77,000 local match. Tip 1.7 is the Bethel, Lincoln, and Mitchell design and construction roundabouts. Again, I'm identifying this as completion. So an additional $2.5 million to get that project completed. So that'd be wonderful. The next project, Vaughn had mentioned that we should continually refer to this as Bethel Phase 1 project. But again, for my purposes, it's helpful to name it as Tip 1.8 and 1.9 for salmon and blueberry design work. And so far we budgeted everything according to the contract.
Yeah, I was just going to share, and the mayor is aware of this, but the developer on Salmonberry, just east of the Salmonberry roundabout, has to do frontage improvements as a condition of SEPA from their project tying into the roundabout. They've proposed a fee in lieu of construction to write us a check so that we only disrupt the neighborhood once with construction rather than them building something for a year followed by us ripping up the roundabout. So hopefully on the 8th of November, we'll be renewing contract to council, which includes a fee that accounts for inflation and the fact that it costs us more to do a project than a private sector entity, and we'll get some additional money and hopefully the next amend the contract to take that design all the way to the new apartments.
And so that 644 is the current design that we awarded that contract already. And some of those dollars, I think 250, Nick, you can correct me on the dollar amount, is the mitigation dollars that came from the developer. And then the balance of the money is coming actually out of our general fund, or excuse me, out of REIT dollars. Once we had, because when we built this budget, we didn't program any of the 1/10 dollars that we will be getting. So we'll need to do a budget amendment once those dollars start to come in, and then we can reprogram those REIT dollars back into the multitude of capital projects that we have in the city, whether it's right-of-way acquisition or construction of something, that we'll be able to reprogram those dollars, but we'll leave the developer's dollars can only be spent on this dollar, when we have other ways we can spend the REIT dollars.
We talked briefly in the finance committee that will allow us time to see what kind of revenues coming in, so that we can better project what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it'd be probably about that. We've got a contract awarded. We need to be able to fund and pay for the work. So once we start getting those other dollars, then we'll supplant those dollars at a budget amendment next year.
So I guess we'll apply and hear more about it, but this number might change before the adoption of the budget. So I guess that's a potential breaking news. So we'll talk more about it. Next project is the Lippert sidewalk improvement projects. Again, when we developed this budget, there were no expenses submitted to the finance department. Since then, we've received at least two invoices, so
No, can you just speak just a little louder?
so there is potential for this project also to be well underway this fiscal year, which we already have budget authority for. Again, that's only going to impact fund balance as we're crossing our fiscal years. But again, this is an asterisk also because we have a grant for the sidewalk capital improvements that are being paid for out 304. That's the CDBG grant money we got. We also have an element, which is the road overlay work that's being paid for the street fund. And we have some stormwater work being done with this project as well. So multiple pieces of that project are being currently completed.
And the paving, I think, is happening next week.
Monday and Tuesday of next
Monday,
week.
Tuesday next week, and we're confident all the work will be done this year. It's whether or not we get all the bills and get all the bills paid, and the and get up related to the project. Some of it could be carried forward in the next budget.
Can you pave in the pouring rain?
That's what.
It's gotta meet certain specifications, so if it's dumping rain, they won't be able to pay.
Fall shower.
Well, dump truck.
It's like 3 months worth.
We're due for it.
Monday, Tuesday, 24th.
Monday looks clear right now.
It does?
Yeah, not kidding.
And 80.
All right, moving on.
Next project, pottery design and construction completion. For this project, we actually got a grant from TIB for $650,000. So we have about $40,000 contribution from local money for that. And I don't know.
It's the complete street project in front of Cedar Heights.
So street guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the corresponding sewer force main.
Which isn't included in that dollar amount.
Yep.
You guys get additional money to fund that.
And so the last project included here is the SR 116 design work. Again, this is broken into the street fund, water, and I believe sewer are all taking a piece of the $1 million design work. And at this point, general fund is funding this street design work for roughly $666,000. But when we actually pay the invoices, we pay for out of our street capital construction fund because it is a capital asset added to the system. So in total, about $11.9 million of transportation capital improvements through design, and got a lot of completions, got a lot of things getting completed this time. So very excited.
And I know we've touched on this, but this is the Bay Street project, and it's, we've got an award, federal award, but we're using our general fund dollars to pay for this now until the federal budget gets applied, and then we can do a budget amendment and claw those dollars back.
Just make sure that you can do that because
We're not going to expend the dollars before we get the federal award, so. We're just
oftentimes federal grants will not let you spend money until you get the official award.
Yeah.
So you can't like reimburse yourself if you spend monies on the project beforehand.
This is the product of presenting you guys a balanced budget.
Right. I
Sources
appreciate
and
that. I just wanted to make sure that we don't spend anything till we get that award.
So we can move on from 304 and move to the water capital construction. First project, well 11 design and construction completion. We're nearing the end of design. I think we're at 80 to 90% design. That's correct.
90%, we have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so 9% on design on well 11. Significant progress will probably be, I guess, do you have an update when we will be done with design?
By the end of the year, ideally.
So moving to construction early 2023. So we're budgeting the full amount here. Again, timing wise, you'll see the numbers change because we've now got some invoices rolling into the design work, which wasn't happening at the time the budget was developed. For the Melcher Boost Station, both the next two projects are funded through Public Works loans, which have already been approved. And I believe they both have contracts with them. Is that correct, Tony?
Yeah, Art Anderson, the Melcher Booster Station, and then also the Sedgwick Booster Station, I believe. The other one.
Just speak up a little bit, guys. We're recording.
So we will, see and monitor, see what hits this year's fiscal statements versus next year's, and we'll adjust next year. But the good news is they're going to be complete. The next one is water main, SR 166 Bay Street. Again, this is a piece of the water design work. So the water is contributing to this project. We have Shroof completion, a water main on Shroof for $250,000.
So AC asbestos pipe that we want to get out of the ground before it blows up on us.
And then we just programmed $250,000 for 2024 for potential water main replacements. Undefined, but just based on how these projects have gone, there will be something. So a total of $10.4 million of water capital projects.
We don't have anything, any commitment with the other water tower that's going up out in McCormick Woods area.
There's another tower that's gonna be added, but I think that's in design.
It's in final permitting. That permit will be
Okay.
issued within the month, I think.
But we don't have, that's being paid for by the developer. Okay, so we don't have,
With credits.
right, with credits, but we don't have any capital.
It's not in our budget.
Okay, thank you.
The next fund we look at is the storm capital fund. And again, based on tomorrow's conversations about the timing of this property purchase. Might hit this fiscal year versus next year, but again, we're kind of forward. So just get adjusted as well. Then the second piece of this is just again, contributing some money towards annual preservation. Again, as we do more of these street projects, there's always a storm element, a water, assume we're starting to find, so we're trying to commit to that early on in the process to ensure that there is some money there.
On that storm purchase, I believe we're talking about closing this year, not next
We
year.
hope so.
Is that how I said?
Oh, I'm not.
It's in the budget. It'll just be
Yes.
a fund. It won't be in the fund balance because we'll spend it this year, then it'll disappear from here if we get close.
Yeah.
Expenditure.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, no,
It's possible it goes away.
due to timing, it might go away in the final budget, next 30 days, depending on how it goes.
We need an amendment in this fiscal year to do that this year, or is it?
Yes,
already
so we still
approved?
need a budget amendment to purchase the property.
It happens this year.
So, be aware of that. And I guess it's important
We'll be
to
asking for
know,
that authority next week, actually.
it's important to know, I guess, for this property purchase, we're using $500,000 of general fund dollars and $500,000 of storm operating dollars. So I guess that would continue to be the proposal for the acquisition going forward. And I believe this was a discussion at the retreat earlier in the year. The council said, yes, go forward and use the surplus balance we have to go and acquire this. Get this.
Just took 2 years to execute.
And then the last big capital fund is our sewer construction fund. The number one project, of course, is our marina project completion for the main focal point in downtown, roughly $13.4 million. Although we are concerned about cost increases. And so,
Yes. Yeah, speak up, Cindy. Yeah. We're recording. So, but
I'm remembering what the original costs were.
About
Go.
6.5.
Oh, it was lower than that.
Lower than that.
and remember, we've held our ARPA dollars, our 2.8 million in ARPA dollars for this project. Because we are concerned.
And look at this.
Well, and it continues to go up since we originally started talking about it, what I think Cindy is suggesting here, but
so it's gonna be important, at least we're at 90% design. We're at 90% design on this project. So what will be important is to get out to bid, and get some commitment on the construction side. So actually have, right now, we think we have a funding gap again, which we thought we solved with the ARPA money, but, so we'll look forward to having this discussion again. But again, marine pump station is a main project for us that we have to get done. So if we have to reallocate resources, we'll have to do that.
it is the pumping station for the
It
city of
is.
Port Orchard.
Everything into somehow.
So additional projects, we have the South Sydney design work. We have sewer main replacement, again, for the SR 167 downtown,
66.
166. And that's the sewer element contribution. Sewer controls, I believe, Public Works has awarded contracts for that. And that is being funded by the
Yes.
Public Works loan of $800,000.
Correct.
And then we do have a placeholder in here for annual preservation in fiscal year 2024 of 200,000. So another big budget of $14.8 million for sewer. So overall, we got a very, very large capital budget went in to our 2024. So lots of projects going on. Are there any questions? I don't stop at this point because at this point we've covered only the expenditure side of the budget. So it's 8:15. We could go a few more minutes there if you like. And 8:30.
31.
So I guess the council has a choice here. We can do a little bit of the revenue conversation now, although you will hear the public hearing next week also. So we'll be a repeat for the most part, but we could cover a little bit now in 10 minutes. Or if you guys want to stop and ask any expenditure related questions. Any questions, I guess, put on the table right now. We've covered all the material I had other than going into the revenue. I want to be sensitive of late night and you will hear this all again next week. So I guess I'm leaving that to you.
I'm personally fine with listening to the revenue next week. If anyone has questions on what we heard here tonight, yeah.
It gets, you have a presentation, I think we touch it twice, don't we, Noah? Revenue.
Well, we would touch it twice if we did it tonight, as well as next week. Next week, we'll hold the public hearing, do the presentation, and then take action on the property tax
Next week,
next week.
Next week.
but we have to touch it twice?
No, you have to have two public hearings on the budget process.
Okay.
And so the public hearing next week also serves as one hearing for our biennial budget. And then November, we'll have another public hearing that will serve as the second public hearing for the biennial budget.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
And you guys all do have the revenue presentation because I did send that out in materials. So I guess I'm looking for someone to tell me which.
John's saying.
I
save it to
said
next
for
week.
me personally, I don't know what other folks.
I'm good with that.
I think the expenditures, expenses and expenditure were much more critical.
They are, and the revenue is very much a repeat, property taxes.
To me, the part that we have input is the expenditures. And he's got to make it balance with the revenue side. So if we're comfortable with what we're spending the money on, then it's a matter of.
I think you said, John, during the finance committee that, thanks to the mayor and Noah and staff and department heads for the information you gave us. It's a good roadmap.
Well, and it's basically what we just did here now. So there's very good explanation. It's nice to be under the budget that is as complete. And it's also nice to have a biennial budget so that we've got opportunities to do this year adjustments. However, as we learn more about the reality versus what we're projecting.
Questions or concerns? We're gonna wait on the revenue. Questions or concerns or comments on the expenditures? Yes, because we really want to button this expenditure conversation up tonight, because we'd rather not have another meeting with you guys on the next Monday. If it's not needed.
It's impressive how much is going on.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with Noah's completion.
Yeah.
Completion, whether it's design or construction, there's a lot of completions.
So how are we all feeling about the 24th? Again, we do have as a placeholder. If you guys want to do that, should the records are willing, but.
I don't think it's necessary. What I shared with the mayor before, we talked about whether we needed that, and it was always in previous budgets. There were always things that the departments wanted that didn't make it into the budget. And essentially what I always viewed that meeting, that all day meeting with the department heads was, okay, plead your case. And do we as a council feel that we should figure out how to put them in? Well, most everything is in this, so there's really not any need, whether it's funded for this year or it's going to be discussed at the mid-year, which is appropriate. Our work here has been done by the mayor and the department heads. Thank you all.
And additionally, that process was really driven from the fact that we had an annual budget process. So there wasn't an opportunity to have a retreat, weigh in, consider the mid-year adjustments, because that didn't happen, you know. Every September, we started a new budget process. And, you know, and now we're doing a heavy lift this year and a lighter lift, you know, next year. So it's just a little different animal.
Well, and I think as we talked earlier, the equipment replacement fund is new, which makes our life easier. The biennial mid-year makes our life easier. Just a number of things that are reserve accounts makes our life a lot easier in that, you know, we don't have to, if we draw those various ending balances down, still within a reasonable amount, but we always have that cushion just in case the world falls apart between now and the mid-year adjustments. So
Processes.
we have grown a lot, we've refined a lot, just making all of our life's easier,
Less risky.
less risk. I think we're being more proactive and looking, I think we're spending the taxpayer dollars better.
We're still staying conservative too.
We're still staying conservative, absolutely,
In our revenue forecast.
but we're able to do some of these things that we don't normally do because of being conservative and because of the economy being so strong that it's allowed us to have some pretty healthy beginning fund balances that allow us to do a little bit more than we've historically been able to do. So I think there's a combination of things, but personally, I'm pretty happy now. Now, I would also just, as the finance committee, we would read stuff more than you guys do. You guys do have questions beyond or after tonight on expenditures. Doesn't mean that this is the last time you get to ask questions, or so you can bring them up whenever you want. Bring them up to the mayor, bring them up to Noah, and get your questions answered. Catch one of us. I don't know if we're gonna get them answered, but we might, you never know.
I mean, we're touching revenue next week.
Yeah.
We're gonna touch this budget process a number of times again, all the way till the end of November. So our goal is last meeting in November, and hopefully we're passing the final budget. It's all trued up.
This is one of our primary responsibilities as a council. Once we bless this, then it's his job to get all that stuff done.
Noah said it's all gonna get completed.
That's right.
Take the under.
There was no
Over under.
Just last quickly, so we got 3 items that the council is asking us to add into this process. Is one, to fund the 4% COLAs and make it part of the budget process. To add a mid-year review item for the RCO grant for the shoreline restoration. And to add a mid-year review item for additional street paving.
As well as a retreat item.
Yeah, and
That's a retreat, not.
well, and really what, it's mid-year, so what happens, my plan at the retreat is, one, we're gonna have a facilitator, I believe, as we normally do. The exercise is, we're gonna take everything that's on this mid-year review, and you guys, that process is for you guys to prioritize that, so that as we have the revenue, that we can go, okay, we can fund number 1, we can fund number 2 now, so on and so forth. So I'm looking to you guys to help prioritize the mid-year review list.
Streets.
There's one vote.
And then maybe we can consider streets.
One trick pony.
I do caution us, we've got a tremendous capital list. And we need to hold some revenue back, I think, to fund,
Streets.
yes, that,
Marina pumps.
well, any of these projects as we go out to bid. So that when the bid comes in higher than our engineer's estimate, we're going, well, what are we gonna defund so we can do this? Instead of having that conversation, it's, well, fortunately, we have this $500,000 sitting here. Now we can move forward with this project and not have to worry about defunding something. But we'll have those conversations. I think before the end of the year, we need to pick a date for them.
I guess we got 2 more minutes, but I just want to make sure that we talked about this. I put it on the table there. The LTAC, and it had initially talked about 107. So we had a proposal of how to treat some of those funds, 107, and set them aside in this biennial budget for
Oh,
the community
yes.
center. So I just want to put
I
that on the
didn't-
table to speak to it.
Yes, so there are north of $300,000 in the LTAC fund. This budget has 100,000 each year. There's more than that, but Noah, I believe that until the end of the year happens and we know what got spent, there are commitments out there and contracts out there for some of that fund balance in this current year. But the proposed budget has $100,000 each year for LTAC expenditures, and taking $100,000 and setting it aside for future operations of the community center. And so I'm just making you aware that that's what this budget has.
I concur with that, because we can always look at it again and make it sure, because one thing we've always said is that people put a new applicant, a new group came along or something. That, separately, the funds that were held aside.
And Sean has a process that he's working, and it will be should be wrapped up before we get to our last budget meeting. And if we need to massage that a little bit, you guys, it's ultimately your decision.
Is community events different than LTAC?
No, this.
Because what this shows is we're starting with 236, we're collecting 204, spending 204, and bringing in with 236. The north of 3 is what,
Because we're gonna collect another 100 this next year. We got a biennial budget.
Yeah,
so-
we have.
Okay, so- but we're starting at 236 and we're ending at 236, and we're planning to spend what we collect.
We are planning to spend what we collect.
Yes, the 100,000 a
But
year.
what we have in fund balance, we budgeted to set aside for future community event center expenditures. So 100,000 of that 200,000 is semi-restricted. In the.
Okay, well, but I just want to make sure that we're talking the right account here. So
Yes,
Mark and I were talking a few minutes ago about that particular bucket, and I want to make sure I understood it correct. So, thank you.
So we'll let Sean's process play out, and there may need to massage that number. But the proposal is to set of the fund balance, to set 100,000 of it aside for future operational needs for the community center, to start saving for that.
When would that happen?
How much?
This year?
it would happen as a part of this budget, yeah.
So is it in?
It's in the 236.
Okay, so 236, already, so right now it's at 339.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I guess the surplus would be 136. We're gonna take in 100 each year, spend 100 each year. You still carry that. 136.
Right now?
Yeah, but remember we talked about expenditures that need to come in, that.
So the
Brent gives
balance
evidence 330, yeah. So there might be upward potential, but again, I'm
Right, right.
assuming all the vendors,
Okay.
contracts that are coming in are gonna.
We're just assuming 100 comes in flat, but it's
Correct.
typically more. If continues. Like certain phase.
Yeah, I mean, LTAC doesn't deviate too much because it's about the hotels. So you have a limited number of, and then there's short-term rentals.
Yeah, don't you get short terms and B&Bs and all that?
We do collect that too, yeah.
But there aren't many.
It's not a,
But the other thing too is what we've done in previous years, where we always budgeted to expend 100,000, it never comes in at 100,000, comes in a little bit less on the expenditure side. So that's what's been.
That's where we save money.
Accumulate.
It's not that we get much more in the way of revenue, it's that we don't get valid requests for the contracts that we've awarded, potentially. They don't expend the money that they were awarded. I think we're adjourned. Time to see.
go ahead.